seen the worst, and there is nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me away. So go, leave me, run like you never did. No, believe me, run like you never run before.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast brought to you by the Scottish Rugby blog. I am Cammy Black. Joining me this evening, we've got Johnny McGinty. Good evening, Johnny.
Good evening, how are we doing?
Craig is currently, someone put it earlier, cleaning up at a Hoover convention somewhere.
He's going to be really pleased when he listens to this on the flight home and hears you call it a Hoover convention.
Yep. That was not an accident, Johnny. So hopefully Craig will be back next week. I won't be here. I'm off next week, but John will be back in the hot seat. So a bit of musical chairs. You can watch us live as we are right now on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You can also listen to the podcast in an audio format on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Acast, and anywhere else that you can get podcasts. We also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast. And from £3 a month, you get a bonus weekly episode where we just kind of chat about things that are bothering us, like bringing back Jaffa Fingers. Still no news on that. You probably need to tweet Mr. Kipling again and find out what's happening.
He'll be dead pleased.
They did say they were going to pass it back to the quality department. So
the quality department decided there was no quality in it.
They don't know what they don't know. Maybe they lost the recipe. We've got a fair bit of stuff to get through this week. The big news today is that Pierre Schumann has re-signed for Edinburgh. That's I don't know why I hadn't dawned on me that he's 28, Johnny. I think that's it's kind of prime era for a prop. Given what happened with Duhan, you would have. It's kind of a. I think it's a sign of his commitment to Edinburgh, not just the club, but the city, because he's apparently settled in very well. Because at 28, given the Six Nations he's had and the kind of player he's become, it's kind of prime Premiership France territory. That.
Yeah. I think he's a little bit older than I think we realised because we waited for so long with him. I think it feels like we've been waiting for Scuban for ages, and then he's obviously only just played his first season and he's been really, really good. And like you say, sort of late 20s, early 30s is when you want to get a prop. So good bit of business by Edinburgh to keep him about. I think he's only getting better. So
yeah, because I mean he managed to jump the queue a bit with qualification. I think it would have been another 2 years we would have had to wait. But I mean it's a long-term deal as well, which I think by our kind of SRU contract translation system makes it about 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I was thinking 3 or 4. So no, that's great. I mean that's basically another full World Cup cycle. So
yeah, and a good thing for Edinburgh as well to keep a player like that around, given they lost Duhan.
Yeah, and Suz.
Yeah. We'll talk about Edinburgh in a minute. There's been no signing news for Glasgow, although it looks like Rory Darge is broken.
Yes, they released a photo of the 7 candidates for Warrior of the Season yesterday,
Yeah.
and both him and Seb Cancelleri have a leg brace, and I'm not even going to say a knee brace, a leg brace on, because it literally is like top of the thigh to the ankle on both of them, which is a bit worrying. They did say it could be up to 12 weeks for Darts. So.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with that Glasgow shortlist though is aside from aside from Sam Johnson, everybody on there's a new signing this season, including Richie Gray.
Yeah, Richie Gray, new old signing.
Which, on the one hand, is good that a lot of the new signings have made an impact, but it does maybe say something about the the quality, the impact
Yeah,
of
I
the more
mean,
established Glasgow players.
at the same time, I'd quite like to know who's in charge of producing the shortlist, because I know Warrior of the Season is a fan voted award, but I don't know if the shortlist is fan voted or whether maybe it's just like Danny Wilson's staff going, look, all these new players we've got are really, really good.
It's a massive PR exercise. Stop asking for new signings. You got this last year, be happy.
Yeah, look at all these new players we just got.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there is something to the fact that a lot of the established Glasgow players or Glasgow players been around for a while haven't been hugely successful this season. But then, Ali Price has had no time off in almost 18 months. Same as
And
Andy
actually, Ali Price has been fine.
Yeah.
Don't think Ali
Yeah,
Price
he's just not really been lighting it up as much as he usually is, but no wonder he must be shattered.
Yeah. I think out of the established players, I would probably say Ali Price and Ross Thompson are two of the and Sam Johnson as well, were probably the more standout ones that have been consistently okay.
Yeah.
And have contributed.
Matt Fagerson was doing really well and then obviously got injured.
Xander, I would say Xander might be tired, but I mean, he didn't really do much on the Lions tour.
He probably held a lot of bags.
I know, he probably ate a lot of biltong. So yeah, it's just. I mean, do we want to talk about Glasgow and Europe now? Should we just go straight into it while we're talking about the Glasgow squad?
Yeah. Do we want to? No, but we probably should.
Should do.
I mean, this is the point where I could have just taken 5 minutes off and once again clipped what I said last week or the week before because I'm getting past the point of being able to say Glasgow can't get to the end of a game.
Well, John popped in the group chat that we've got.
Yeah,
this is a horrendous list. This is Glasgow. This is Glasgow's last few away games. So Ulster leading 15-14 at halftime, lost 29-35. Zebra leading 14-6 at halftime, 176. Fair enough. Benetton leading 18-13 at 62 minutes, lost 18-19. La Rochelle 13-10, 56 minutes, lost 13-20. Exeter 17-14 at 15 minutes, lost 17-52.
Yeah, we don't like that one very much at all.
Connacht leading 17-10 at halftime, 142-20. Fair enough. But some of the other ones, I mean, Scarlets leading at halftime, lost 10-35. Cardiff leading at halftime, lost 28-32. Newcastle leading at halftime, won, to be fair. But there's a lot of these leading at halftime, leading into the fourth quarter of a game.
Yeah.
And then it all coming undone. I mean, some of the penalties are just stupid now.
Yeah. It's like we were saying the other week about the difference between Glasgow and Edinburgh. Edinburgh have hit a blip and hopefully are going to be able to go on. We've had two. Well, not hopefully now because the only game they've got left is Glasgow. hopefully for them, we'll be able to go. Look, that's 2 weeks that this has happened, lads. Like we need to stop this right now. Whereas Glasgow are at like about 20 weeks of it just will not stop happening. I think it's too late now to come up with a fix for it. To be honest.
Because there were times the referee was screaming at them that he was going to basically like the amount of warnings Matt Carley gave them and was like, "You're off your feet," and then he was giving them a good 10 seconds before he blew up to correct body position or to just go back. But I mean, and they're right in front of the posts, in their own half every single time.
Yeah, it's not even the penalties. I don't mind a team giving away a few penalties, but you've got to make your penalties count. Like if you're
Mhm.
going to give away a penalty, make it worth something. Stop giving away stupid penalties in front of your own posts all the time, because that's how you end up losing a game.
Well, yeah, and the first penalty was it Sam Johnson won a turn or read it really well and won a turn. Basically got the turnover, and then it was just it's like brainless just going beyond the ball to then be turned over and have a penalty whistled against you within like 3 seconds of that happening.
Yeah, that's it. It's like the situations where Glasgow give away penalties. It's just where that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah,
And
I mean, someone in the
there's
comments asking if it's fitness. I don't. It's mental to me.
yeah.
Like I
I
mean,
think at this
it's
point it
mental. I
is.
mean, it's
It's in their heads.
yeah, it's the decision making on the pitch.
Yeah,
There's nobody there like pulling them together and saying, right, we need to cut it out, we need to sort it out.
yeah,
I mean, even that last try, there was there's 6 Glasgow players in the defensive line throwing their hands up in the air about the referee's decision rather than focus on what was happening. So
yeah.
it's the softest
And
try ever, chip over the top in a way, because they were all pleading with the referee rather than being aware of the fact they might go for a quick tap and go.
it's one of these things as well, where 2 games in a row you collapse in the second half, and you start to think, oh, do we have a problem with this? I mean, the stats there, Glasgow have collapsed in the second half. What, 14 games out of 16 away this season?
Mhm.
And by the time that happens, like, if that's in your head, you're knackered.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I know it sitting on my couch. You're sitting there thinking, if this game starts to get out of Glasgow's control, they're going to lose because they always lose. So there's no way that that's not going through the players' heads as well.
Yeah. Kev Weiner says, the breakdowns where the national side is being penalised most, be good to see the stats of Glasgow and Edinburgh here as well. Is
I don't
there
think it
a
would be
breakdown?
good.
Yeah, is he a breakdown specialist who's Scottish coaching at a decent level? Yes, he's called Richie Gray, and he's currently coaching breakdown for Fiji for Vern Cotter. Is the answer to that? But yeah,
Which is terrifying, by the way. Not as terrifying as it is for Wales.
No.
But a whole World Cup cycle now of Stern, Vern, and Richie Gray teaching Fiji to be absolute monsters at the breakdown, as well
Yeah,
as everything else they can do.
Fiji have just nationalised rugby in their country as well.
Yep.
Come on,
I'm
Nicola.
glad that we're not in their World Cup group.
Come on, Nicola, nationalise the SRU. That's what we all want. More bureaucracy in the SRU. Christ, can you imagine?
Here, at least they could do that thing that they've been doing with the ferries, where they just like buy whatever we need and then lose the receipts or whatever it is they did.
Is that not what Mark does? That's just what Mark Dudson does.
No, he buys whatever he needs and loses the receipts.
Yeah. Well, no. We should clarify.
No, he doesn't. No, that's not.
No, he
fair.
doesn't.
It was just too.
That's
It was
a
too easy
joke.
a thing to say while I was already saying something.
Yeah,
it was a joke.
Yeah, that is a joke. Anyway, let's go back to Glasgow then. There doesn't seem to be many issues in the backs. It's all. I mean, I don't want to. I know Craig's not here to defend the forwards. Not that Craig would be chomping at the bit to defend Glasgow forwards.
Anyway,
yeah.
Tell us how great he thinks Jack Dempsey is.
I haven't got an issue with the backs.
No, I think this is where, like, possibly there is something fitness related, because how many times in our group chat on Twitter or whatever has me or John been sitting watching a Glasgow game and remarked in the first 20 minutes about how the forwards are really taking it to teams, getting a penalty try from the maul against the Bulls a couple of weeks ago. Some of the breakdown work against the Stormers for the first 20 minutes was unbelievable, and they don't seem to be able to sustain it for a whole game.
Yeah.
They fall away eventually, apart from Jack Dempsey.
No, well, he's inevitable. Yeah, well, there's not really much else. It's like I said, it's the same thing every week. We have the same discussion every week about Glasgow. the solution
Yep.
seems to be very clear, but I don't see there's no
Wilson out.
evidence that it's happening. Just bring, you would think that, the solution would be get everyone together and try and work out why they're having having a collapse of clarity and of thinking post halftime, if not in the last quarter. And why is that happening? And what can they do to fix it? Because it's too late in the season to try and fix it overnight, and you're not going to. But there's no sign there's even kind of an attempt looking ahead to next season to try and change anything. It's just, if we keep playing the system, hopefully we'll score enough tries, and let's just hope that we don't let any in.
Yep. What's the definition of insanity again?
Yeah. Is it, well, we've won games this season just playing the way we play. We've lost some as well, but we'll just keep doing that and it'll work.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No, it's not. No, I mean, we're still going to be in the URC playoffs. Well, we are in the URC playoffs. Glasgow.
but
we
you've
need to
gone
stop doing this. Glasgow are still in the playoffs.
Yeah, but Glasgow have gone from being second in the URC down to
Yep.
now got an away quarter-final.
Yeah. Now, I mean, part of that is something that's happened to quite a lot of teams this season, where that there was a block at the run-in where they went down to South Africa and got slippered twice.
Yeah.
Which happened to everyone, to be fair, except Edinburgh. And so I think Glasgow and Edinburgh's position early in the season was artificially inflated. I don't think that Glasgow and Edinburgh were ever at any point the top 3 or 4 teams of the URC.
I don't know about Edinburgh, maybe.
The thing is,
At
when
points.
Edinburgh were up the top, they hadn't played Leinster, they hadn't played Ulster, they hadn't played Munster, they hadn't
Hadn't played any real teams.
They had, well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. But then, to be fair, Glasgow hadn't played a large amount of real teams either. Like,
Yeah.
we were slightly further down than Edinburgh. They were slightly further down than Edinburgh because they had played Leinster and they had played Ulster. But they still had a South African trip to come up. They still had Scarlets to come. I think both the Scottish teams at the start of the season maybe had a slightly easier kickoff than a lot of others.
Yeah.
Edinburgh is slightly more than Glasgow as well.
Having said that, though, Edinburgh, at least, if not Glasgow, have stuck some good results and some very good European teams and some big teams this year. And they're the only team to win away in South Africa on their tour. Connacht,
went away as well.
Yeah, true.
Which I'd completely forgotten about until right then, to be fair.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a Glasgow and Edinburgh. I think it's a frustrating thing. We talked about this before with Scotland. Is they've both got the potential. They both are able to. I mean, the fact to be doing it as well as Glasgow did against Lyon is a good performance. It's just the failure to see out games that lets them down. It's not that they're not as good as the teams above them. It's that, Glasgow's problem in particular is they can't finish games.
Yeah. And Glasgow, to be fair, did beat Munster this year.
Yeah, true. But then Munster, they're not Munster anymore. They're all
Munster
right.
could finish second or could finish 6th next weekend.
That's exciting.
I know.
Next, then, should we talk about Edinburgh? I mean, that's somehow the Edinburgh one's more heartbreaking, I think, than Glasgow.
Yeah. I think, for a lot of reasons, Edinburgh were at home. Edinburgh, I think, had a better chance than Glasgow ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And were a lot closer. And also, now I didn't see the full game, I only saw the highlights because I was playing on Saturday afternoon. But there was a lot of suggestion on Twitter that them losing that game wasn't entirely their fault.
Yeah. But then it's always your fault. I don't think you can ever blame the officials for it. I mean, to a certain extent, and although, Wasp scored from the subsequent penalty, it should have been, they should have had a penalty try anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of hard to judge, I think, without having seen the entire game. But there certainly were incidents that I saw that were fairly interestingly refereed.
Yeah, but I think that's to be play the referee. Like Craig would say, play the referee, and
exactly.
you can't get frustrated at refereeing decisions if your team aren't adapting to what he's asking them to do.
No. And I also think as well, like I've always said, if you lose by less than a score, it didn't come down to one refereeing decision. That one refereeing decision might have been that one score, but you were close enough that you could have won that game.
That's it. I mean, and one try at least is because Edinburgh completely messed up a kickoff. And all of a sudden Wasps are in probably on the line and they've got a good field position. If Wasps were able to score tries because Edinburgh gave them field position, not because a referee saw things slightly differently or made a marginal call.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a shame for Edinburgh. I don't, they've had a good run. It's like you said, there's less to talk about with Edinburgh, I think, because I think there's still the hope that they're going through a rough patch, but they can turn it around. And actually, to give Wasps the game that they did might suggest some of the things have started to turn around. I mean, we'll see that in a couple of weeks at the 1872.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that the players that Edinburgh have let go, though, is the news. It was in the news this week. And Ramiro Moyano's gone.
Yeah, that's what is going on there, because he's only been there a year, and before him, it was the Fijian winger. Do you remember who'd only been there a year and then randomly left? It's a bit strange. I guess it's maybe just people don't settle though.
Maybe, but maybe unless he's been offered something else elsewhere. I mean, he's not done as well. I mean, he's not stood out as well as Buffelli, but he's still done a really good job on the wing. I mean,
yeah.
I guess they've re-signed Damien Hoyland, who's kind of hit a real purple patch, but maybe, I don't know, like we said last week, maybe Mike Blair is desperate for that last stamp on his free coffee card. So he's re-signed Damien Hoyland and let Moyano go.
That's what it came down to.
Ramiro Moyano does not have a loyalty scheme.
Yeah, we can only keep one, and they're both doing so well that we need a point of difference. It just happens to be Hoyland's got a coffee cart and Moyano doesn't.
Yeah. The other people have gone from Edinburgh then. James Johnson, we knew James Johnson was retiring anyway. Magnus Bradbury's gone down to Bristol. Although we might talk about that at Hands in the Ruck, the Bristol stuff that's come out today, because that's funny.
Yeah,
and Ben Tools is going to Japan, but the other one, Nathan Chamberlain going. That's
yeah.
I watched Super 6 this weekend and the Southern Knights, and
he's not even here.
And well, it's my thing too. It's a thing me and Craig do together. I'm just, the Southern Knights is bothering me a lot more than I thought it would, and I can see why. Given the way that they performed this weekend, I completely understand why Nathan Chamberlain isn't getting a new contract at Edinburgh, because they got an absolute spanking off of Ayr, and they were just like all the Super 6 teams to me all the Super 6 teams, apart from the Southern Knights right now, look like teams who are trying to be professional and who are it's like, I suppose it's semi-pro, I guess. There's organisation to defence, there's attack patterns, there's a cohesiveness about their play. All the teams, everybody's beating somebody now, and I think everyone's beating somebody on the road, apart from the Southern Knights, who've lost every single game of the Sprint Series, and were just utterly abysmal against Ayrshire Bulls. Like it looked like amateurs trying to tackle professionals. They were just
They don't look like the team from the final, do they?
No, I mean it looks like they're trying to chase and stroke cats. That's where they're tackling. That's their tackling technique. It's just running bolt upright after people, or people running towards you and just running your palms down their shirts. And then it's like, oh, they've gone past me. I better go and run after them and make it look like just there's holes everywhere.
The series is tied in with Tartan Touch.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they didn't get the memo.
Or they got them both at the same time.
All right, lads, it's the sprint series. I think it's touch. Let's just see how it goes.
They printed
Rest
out
we go. They didn't
quarterfinals
seem to
and
be
got them
playing
mixed up.
touch. We'll just keep going for the next 6 games and see how it goes. Like the points difference is minus 90,
Jesus.
and the next one out is Boromir Bears a minus 37.
Yeah, that's not good, is it?
No, it's awful. There's one more round of fixtures. I don't hold much hope, but yeah, it's not great. And yeah, I think there's a suggestion that they've been stripped of a lot of their talent. But I mean, you've got Nathan Chamberlain there, who's played professional rugby,
Yeah.
and he made some good passes and things. But he's not. I can understand why he's not been offered another contract at Edinburgh.
Yeah. He played in some big games for Edinburgh as well.
He
I think,
did.
didn't
Yeah, which I think, and he did, and he played well, I think, as well. And I think it's one of those things as well. There are those players, I think, that have obviously got all the ability in the world, but aren't able to kick on.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Someone comes along and replaces you, and you don't see, maybe that you don't see, people don't see it as a competition, or it doesn't push players on, and people give up. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be hard to. I'd be gutted. I mean, we can say this because Craig's not here, but I'd be gutted. I'd be gutted if I was a starting 10 and all of a sudden Blair Kinghorn was parachuted into my position.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Who's he competing with? Kinghorn and Van der Vaart? Savala
and Van der Vaart.
Like, outside of Blair Kinghorn, if you're a professional standard 10, you're not exactly terrified of that competition, are you?
No.
Realistically. So I wonder what's happened to him. It's a strange one.
Who knows? He's thinning on top. Maybe that's it. It's like a Samson thing.
He doesn't like being on telly.
Yeah. I don't think there's nothing else to say about Edinburgh and Glasgow, really, other than we're all going to 1872.
Yep.
You're sitting in the
think Glasgow's levers. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sitting beside Craig Manson. I think Glasgow's levers are out, but I don't think there's anything very surprising.
No, there was nothing big in there, was there?
Who's going? Either Grant Stewart or Johnny Matthews is going.
Is it? It can be. I mean, Johnny Matthews had a good, decent game at the weekend.
I know.
I think, is it Grant Stewart?
It's Grant Stewart. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I knew it was someone I wasn't all that surprised by. And I mean, Fraser Brown, George Turner, and Johnny Matthews. Oh, Tom Lambert. Tom Lambert's away.
Yeah, that's right. In order to pursue other playing opportunities overseas.
Yeah, that was the one that surprised me.
Yeah, he missed all season with an ankle injury. I wonder what. Yeah, pursuing a play. I mean, the thing is, it's not. Scotland don't have the best. Glasgow and Edinburgh don't have the best of luck with props. I mean, Edinburgh probably more so, but Glasgow never, apart from Xander, I suppose, they've never really landed on a consistent set of props because everyone kind of has their moment, but then kind of fades away. I mean, maybe through injury or otherwise, but there's no. I'm not sure how much consistency Glasgow have had in the front row outside of Hooker and Xander.
They all go the way of the Morpho eventually.
Yeah. Or do a Jamie Batty, which is, oh, look, he's really good. Oh, no, he's gone down south. Now he's at Edinburgh. Now he's back to Glasgow.
Yeah. He played quite well on Saturday.
He did, yeah. He's not looking in the best of condition.
No.
I would argue. And I know he's a prop, but it's still I mean, given the way that Glasgow play, he just looks bigger than he has done in the past. I'm not body shaming it, but he's not built for 80-minute rugby.
No. Yeah, I mean, bigger than he has done in the past is helpful for some areas of his game, but it has been quite detrimental to some others.
Yeah. The other one that's gone is Hamish Bain.
Yes.
Second row, but he hasn't managed many. I mean, he's playing Super Six now anyway, so
yeah, it's he hadn't played a huge part, Hamish Bain, but the combination of him Big Bad Bob and Kieran McDonald all going is a bit leaves us a bit thin.
Well, you got Richie Gray. Richie Gray can't do it on his own.
Nope. Lewis Bean is the other one.
Who's leaving or who's available? You got Cummings.
Who's available? Yeah, and
Who's
Scott
available?
Cummings.
So you got Lewis Bean, Scott Cummings, Richie Gray,
Richie Gray.
and then there's the academy lads that you've signed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great.
No, but presumably, I mean, Danny Wilson says there's more signings coming.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No. I like Lewis Bean, actually. I'm a big fan of Lewis Bean, but also the standard that Lewis Bean's at is that he got released a couple of weeks to go and play for the Army. So
Yeah. JP Dupree's coming in as well.
Oh, so he is.
Isn't he like 7'10" as well?
He's a big lad, yeah.
There's that South African look that everyone keeps telling us, but everyone keeps mentioning who's got some sort of Scottish granny.
Yeah.
Everyone gets excited about now and again.
It's usually Edinburgh that get excited about him, though, isn't it?
Probably. Yeah, so that's it for Glasgow, and that's us up to date on Glasgow and Edinburgh signings. There's been a couple of big bits of news kind of in the world of rugby that's probably worth talking about.
Yes.
The first
Shall we start with
one,
the very biggest one that we can get out of the way very quickly, which is that today, friend of the pod, David Quarrell, got announced as team manager for Stirling County next year.
Oh, yes.
So that's exciting.
That is exciting.
Well done. Him,
Well
he's
done.
promised he's going to get the grass cut at Bridgehaw as well. So, in fact, I
Very
think he said
pleased.
he'd cut the grass already.
Himself.
Got it cut.
That Super Six money doesn't go very far.
But
Get to your
no, well
flying
done to
one.
him. That'll be good. That'll be good. He'll
Flying one
enjoy
and
that.
extension lead. Yeah, that'd be good, especially if he can get his Stirling stash.
Yeah, because it is nice. Yeah, I'm one step closer to my Stirling County stash.
The other big bits of news then is we know who's going to host the next 3 women's World Cups and 2 men's World Cups.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Well, we knew the next men's one already, obviously, because they were half a cycle ahead.
Because it's we know about France, don't we?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the England women's one is technically the same cycle as the France men's one.
Yes, but they hadn't
It's 2
got
years
around,
later.
they hadn't got around to announcing it yet.
Yeah.
So it's England women's one in 2025. That's quite good. I mean, that's exciting, I think, to have. I mean, obviously it's in New Zealand this time round, but and it's a good time for it to be in New Zealand, given that they've started up a semi-pro women's league. So it feels quite timely for them. I think this Six Nations, as we said, has been good in raising the profile of the game in the UK. So if everybody does what they need to do in the next 3 years, it could be a really good exciting tournament. I think, and it's a target, I think, for the SRU to say we've got 3 years to get a really good professional setup in place,
Yeah.
and to go and have a really good tilt at the World Cup.
Realistically, when the World Cup comes here to England, all 4 Lions nations should have a fully professional women's setup to welcome that World Cup. That's like...
I'd like to see... Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see... It's just... I know they've gone with it. It's England are the hosts. It would be nice if they did what they've done in previous World Cups and had a game in Cardiff and had a game and have some games in Edinburgh, just to kind of spread the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if it's if Scotland, and that's the other thing, I suppose, that it's a good target for Scotland women to even qualify for it.
Yeah.
Because we take it for granted that the men qualify, but they'll have to make it out of their group in New Zealand. Is it top 3 in the group go qualify, I think, isn't it? And then everyone goes into the repechazes. So yeah, and that's going to be hard because it's New Zealand, Australia, and Wales.
And Wales, yeah.
So yeah, I think that needs to be the target now for the SRU, to say we want to be competitive at the next World Cup, and it's in England, and it's a really good platform to sell the women's game from. But it doesn't feel like things are moving fast enough for that to happen.
Nope.
because we still haven't got any announcement about professional team in Scotland. We still haven't heard any more about this supposed URC Mirror League. So
Yeah, they're good. Things are going to have to start happening quite quick if we're going to get to that.
yeah, because it's so you. I mean, it's they're already a season down because you're not going to set anything up in time for next September, for this September coming. So that's already a year missed. So realistically, unless the URC are going to say, unless there's going to be an agreement to hold it as its own separate thing, maybe over the summer,
Yeah,
that's the only way that they're going to get up and running in time to make any tangible impact. Which would be good, actually. I think what I say I'd watch it. But I think it would be if they're going to set up a kind of mirror URC conference, having it after the men's one and over the summer would make a lot of sense because it's there's I think that's what worked for the Six Nations this year is that everybody got excited. Oh well, look, I'm not having to kind of sit and watch 3 days of rugby to catch every single game. You can go, okay, well, I've watched the Six Nations now. I'll watch the TikTok Six Nations off the back of that,
yeah.
and there's time to do it. It's got its own space to be its own thing.
Do you know what I'd love them to do? Did you see the Super Rugby Melbourne Weekender that they just did? It looked
Nope.
fantastic. Every single team in Super Rugby, they all played in Melbourne over the course of a weekend. So it was like, 8 games? 6 games maybe. I would love the first round of the women's URC to be over the weekend of the men's final in the same city as the men's final.
That'd be amazing.
That would be really good.
Yeah.
If there's like 16 women's URC teams, so that's 8 games, and it's in like Dublin because that's where the URC final always is, then you could use the RDS, you can use the Aviva. There's venues. You can space it over the weekend.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep, there we go. Done your job
So
for
you
URC.
can have that for free.
Yep.
I say free, you can have it for some tickets.
Then we've got the next big thing. I mean, Australia having it is kind of fairly. It seems fairly inevitable in 2027 because it's just probably their turn to have it in this.
Yeah, because I mean they kind of do. I think they do like established Northern Hemisphere, established Southern Hemisphere, emerging nation as a rotation.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's been deliberate though, has it?
I don't know. I think
Japan
it's
was the
probably
first.
not.
Japan was the first emerging nation to get it, really.
Yeah.
So
I think in these last 2 cycles they've kind of slotted it in because it did used to just be like northern, southern, northern, southern, northern, southern.
I think the big problem that you've got is that it essentially bankrupts you to host it. As far as give the RFE, I think it does very well for the countries that host it. It does very well, but I think for the unions, it's not necessarily financially viable.
The RFU made a lot of money off the World Cup, didn't they? And just
I think they did,
kind of spent it. I
But
don't think it was hosting the World Cup that bankrupted them. I think it was spending the money badly once they had it.
Was it the IRFU or was it just Irish people in general kind of belly aching when we voted for France that they couldn't afford to host it? I think they said they couldn't afford to host the future tournament then. They said it was their last chance to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm getting mixed up with. Just about 4 years of salty Irish people in my mentions going, oh, you didn't vote for us in the World Cups. Why should we?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love it? Who doesn't love a trip to France?
Yeah, exactly. And like, realistically, where are you going to hold an entire World Cup in Ireland?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Ireland genuinely, as far as dedicated rugby venues go, on the entire island has 3.5. So what are you going to do for a World Cup?
Yeah.
I mean, the Springboks have got a bit of experience with it now with the URC, but can you imagine the All Blacks rocking up to the sports ground?
You imagine,
World Cup quarter final.
And you're going to go and sit on the sofa when you get a yellow card.
You have to move the time of the World Cup quarter final because there's dog racing on. Like, be serious.
That'd be the most Irish thing ever.
I can't remember how it works, but there's
you can't be having it on that day, for you boys. We've got a private function booked.
there's some sort of thing. I don't know if it's maybe over now, but it certainly was on the go until very recently, where the sports ground was owned by the greyhound racing board or something, so they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. No, you can't be playing rugby here on Saturday the 13th. We've got a right live race and a kiddie's birthday party in the function room. You'll have to play it on a Sunday.
And they were angry that we didn't vote for that.
I don't care.
There's a stadium in
If you're
France that's got
All
a wine cellar and a big party zone.
I know.
Why would we vote for the sports ground when we could be going there?
I don't care who you are, Mr. Beaumont. Young Lachlan's been waiting for his birthday for ages. You'll have to be holding part final.
We'll never get the deposit back on the bouncy castle.
So that's the URC final had to be relocated as Ed Sheeran's playing the Aviva. There you go. That's the state rugby is on a global scale. So the fact that there was another group chat that we were in, people were watching Pointless this week to kind of show where rugby is. The two lads claimed to be big fans of rugby and thought that George North played for England.
Yep.
What
did they say? Was it them that said Mario Itoje?
Mario Itoje. No, I think somebody said he stood.
Itoje?
I think someone says again. One of our other friends had said that they were stood beside someone at Twickenham who kept shouting, "Come on, Mario!" Mario Itoje for the entire game. Which I'd like to think it was just Luigi. Come on, Mario!
Waiting for him to come back from the bar.
So yeah, Australia 2027, and they then get the women's for 2029, which means they must be doing it then as a double deal.
They seem to be, from like this 2027 onwards. Certainly for the next two.
Yeah,
because it's USA after that for both.
Australia's really weird though, because I kind of I think there's the expat thing in Australia, but it's still like rugby union's still like the fourth most popular sport in Australia. Might be the fifth.
Yeah.
It's like cricket, Aussie rules, league.
Yep.
Probably football.
Yeah, I think football's like getting up there in Australia.
There's also
I mean they're playing a Bledisloe Cup on like a Wednesday or Thursday night because they don't want to clash with. I think it's the AFL Grand Final, to be fair. And there's
like that's just
But that's the Bledisloe is the biggest game that you get if you're Australia.
Yeah,
and they're like no interest in trying to take part in the same day
because you can't clash with the Aussie rules. Yeah, although they do play, and also they've got I don't know what they call it. My brothers told me they have that thing where they have women in bikinis playing American football as well. Apparently, that's quite popular in Australia.
Shocker.
Yeah,
not that I want to like denigrate all of Australia, but I'm not entirely entirely unsurprised by that.
So what? That probably puts rugby union like 8th.
See if we get a wee two-piece for Taniela Tupou. That would bump those weird figures up.
What's that? I mean, the last time I was how was it? The last, it's the last Bledisloe Cup game. The stadium was half empty. And I know they had COVID and stuff, but it wasn't half empty because of COVID. It was just half empty because no bugger turned up to it.
Yeah, because nobody went.
So yeah,
I always forget that there's still COVID rules other places, because you see the South African stadiums where there's only a handful of people, and it's because they're still in severe limits.
Yeah, almost as
though
let's
send the URC final there.
Yeah, it's almost as though the disease is still running rife and rampant throughout the community. The big one though is the USA.
Yeah,
they've finally given it to the USA. For 2031 and 33, which I don't know, part of me thinks they did it because they're expecting a nuclear winter between now and then, and they thought, well, they'll not actually have to host it, so let's give it to them. But the strange thing with this is, and it brings us on to probably the other thing that's worth talking about, is this we get it every year. It's the annual kind of World Rugby chat about how can we revolutionise the calendar and make things more exciting chat.
Yep.
And the latest proposal is, or seems to the leaked proposal, is that there's going to be a biennial North v South competition, which will launch in 2026. And essentially, everybody will play. They still keep the Six Nations. You still keep Super Rugby, or Super Rugby. You still keep the Southern Hemisphere competition, but it'll include Japan and Fiji. And then you'll have your summer tours, but everybody will play. You won't go and just tour one country. You will do a bit like the Southern Hemisphere tours do when you come up to the Northern Hemisphere. You'll play different countries and be allotted. And then at the end of November, they'll have a finals weekend, a bit like the Autumn Nations Cup, where everyone will be ranked and everyone will play everybody.
Yeah.
And a kind of like you're the best, the worst. What's weird about it though, and doesn't make sense to me, is it completely cuts off tier 2 countries now from any seat at the table. Like, it's fine to say, all right, Fiji and Japan are in, but there's then no space in the calendar for Scotland to play Georgia or Tonga or Samoa to have any game, or even like the USA and Canada to get any opportunity to play an A game. So why do I don't get the theory? I don't get why you do that in 2026 and go and play the World Cup in the USA in 2031.
Yeah, it just doesn't really fit, does it?
Because nobody in America's going to watch it.
No.
Because America's going to be awful.
And they were all in America. They were really excited when the All Blacks came and put 100 points on them, but they were still excited because it was the All Blacks. And then, like, you're basically saying, "Oh yeah, that's never going to happen again." Oh, but buy tickets to a World Cup.
Yeah.
Because the thing about having a World Cup in America, and it could be amazing, or it could be very much not. And America has a little bit of an expat community. America is also massive.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that traveling fans are going to be able to go and watch all of their team's games unless they're going to like localize the groups or whatever. But you're going to be relying on locals filling seats. And if you've blocked them out of international rugby for 5 years before that, then they're not going to.
Yeah, because then all you're relying on is MLR doing well enough to penetrate past baseball,
American football, ice
hockey, and all the other. Yep. Everything else, and soccer, probably
Major
soccer.
League Soccer,
yeah. And it's not going to do that in that. That the money's obviously there with some of the people that are going over there and getting paid.
Yeah.
In the MLR, but but the audience isn't there.
No. Yeah, I mean, unless you localize the pool stages, can you imagine going to America for World Cup to watch Scotland and our pool stage games end up being like New Orleans, Boston, Seattle? Like, that's not going to happen. You'd be lucky if the team can make those, never mind all the fans.
It's probably a lot like us doing it in Australia, though. They're probably heavily relying on expats and people who think they're expats, but are actually kind of 5th generation Irish.
Yeah,
on the grandfather's side.
Yeah, I can imagine if they do it that way. Yeah, like Scotland and Ireland's group games are all in Boston and New York.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure
Japan and Australia play in San Francisco, that sort of thing.
Aside from a few curious Americans, I would imagine everybody that turned up to that All Blacks game was some form of expat or second generation.
Yeah.
From a rugby nation to go and watch it. I don't think it was necessarily I might be wrong. Some people might have just gone along with that morbid curiosity. Was that game in Texas? We played in 40-degree heat.
Yeah.
That's no heat to play Stuart Hoggan.
No. That's the sort of tour where like Rob Harley's really happy he's not going.
Yeah. Well, Glasgow took him to South Africa. Poor lad. I think that's the main news. We can have a bit more of a rant about that in Hands in the Ruck in a bit.
Yeah, because I've got some thoughts about the Nations League. No, I don't think so. I think we've covered everything.
I think we've got, the one thing I should just say is congratulations to Fiona Skeen of Berwick Rugby Club, who is the first ever female president of the oldest rugby union league in the world, the Borders League. So 125 years old.
Very
So
well done.
congratulations to Fiona. It's good to see after 125 years, finally progress from the Borders. I might have a rant about that in Answering the Ruck as well. We're gonna go and record our bonus episode now for our patrons. So you can sign up to the Patreon for that. £3, like I said, £3 a month. Patreon.com/Scottish Rugby Podcast. We will be, well, I won't be, but the everybody else will be here next week to preview the 1872 Cup. We are going to be there. If you see us, stop us and say hello. Buy us a drink if you want. We'll not say no.
No, certainly will not.
But for the moment, it is goodbye from me and goodbye from Johnny.
Bye-bye.